Hello and welcome to another edition of Lab Rats. My name's Andy Walker.
I'm Sean Carruthers.
And today I'm very excited about this new episode of Lab Rats because we're going to be covering off what amounts to the most exciting category of consumer electronics in a long time. And that would be? Work with me here, Mr. Carruthers. Work with me.
I love a lot of stuff that's out there, Andy, but I'm seeing that you're holding an iPad, so I'm thinking we're looking at tablets.
Yeah, tablets today. Of course, kind of a category that Apple introduced last year. I guess people had tried doing tablets before, tablet PCs and that sort of thing, stylus-based type stuff, and never really stuck. But Apple seemed to get it right with the iPad and sold zillions of these things.
Yeah.
And of course, in any good market, there is always two players. There is the number one and there's the number two player. And for the longest time, of course, there was nobody sitting in the second spot. But with the rise of the Android operating system from Google, moving from the smartphones into tablets, we actually saw a load of tablets at the Consumer Electronics Show this year, didn't we?
Yeah, I think between Apple and Android and all the other things, I mean, Apple wasn't even displaying at the CES show floor at all, but there was about 80 tablets launched at CES.
Is it 80? Yeah.
80. A lot of them Android, of course. A lot of them, a smaller number of them of their own design, or other players like Windows. But we'll talk about that.
Absolutely. So so it looks like it's going to be the year of the Android tablet. Although, any day now we'll hear an announcement from Apple about the next generation iPad, iPad 2, whatever they're going to call that. And so that will really be the one to beat this year. So we'll talk a little bit about that, as well as perhaps some of the contenders that will give the iPad and Apple a run for its money.
Yes.
Good. All right. Well, let's take a break. And when we come back, Tablets 2011. What's on the horizon here today at
Tab Rats.
Well, before we get started with tablets in 2011, I want to talk to you quickly about our sponsor, hover.com, my favorite place to keep my domain names. This is the kind of place you guys have to check this out. Zip on over to hover.com, and if you buy domains, if you want personalized email address, you at whatever domain.com you want, this is the place to buy them. These guys, they do everything right as far as I'm concerned. Forget about the competitors, the GoDaddies of the world, all those guys. They're kind of the anti-GoDaddy, I think. That was my experience of them, in the sense that, they don't overpromise. Their service is really good. You don't have to call overseas to get any tech support at all. You talk to somebody who's going to help you, and you should see, they have this really great wall, actually, outside my office. Hover.com is on the same floor as us. And there's a wall of all these sort of customer testimonials. And I'm really impressed. People genuinely go, hey, these guys really helped me out. My domain was stuck. I didn't know what to do. I needed some service, blah, blah, blah. And, they talked about these people by first name, and they're really thrilled.
And they're not just sent in by staff members' moms.
No, it's true.
It's real users.
Genuinely a good organization. These guys are growing really fast. They deserve all the success that they've got. And we highly recommend you zip on over there and check them out, especially if you want, as I said, your own domain, or you have a collection of domains. You're going to get a great customer service experience, and so we urge you to do that. We're going to make it easy for you, zip on over with this coupon code here. It gives you 10% off to get started on your first purchase, and see for yourself. You should believe us, because we genuinely believe this. Yes, we work for the company as a division of, but honestly, I think even if I left this company, even if I moved on, or even if I wasn't a customer, I would use these guys for sure. So try it out for yourself, and I'm sure you'll get a great experience. There you go.
Alrighty.
All right, so let's get on with tablets 2011. I think probably the best place to start is start with the iPad, and we'll talk about some of the sort of the heir apparents thereafter. So the iPad came out in, what was it, January of 2010. A beautiful device. Both Sean and I have our own versions here. Apps for it. No camera on these guys, but thin at 1.5 pounds. Great screen, good experience, great movie watching capability. Customize apps for the actual iPad, not just transfer of iPhone apps. And pretty peppy in terms of its response rate and that sort of thing.
Yeah, they brought in Apple's new processor platform, the A4.
The A4, right? That was that was inside of these, because these really are computers. They're not like large smartphones. They're computers. Some notable things that are missing, though, and I think that we're going to see that. We've seen lots of rumors about the experience of what the iPad 2 is going to be. Certainly there's no camera on these guys right now, right, Sean?
Not yet. Apparently, in a teardown, people say that there's stuff on the board to support a camera, so I think it was originally part of the plan, so I would really be surprised if we didn't see it in the next gen.
There was apparently at News Corp had, who've been doing some partnerships with Apple and sort of a newspaper version, their own newspaper for the iPad. There was at a press conference, there was one left lying around, or one of the Reuters reporters saw one. It has a camera. It had a camera right sitting, up here, right at the top here, right? And so it looks to me, all evidence points to the fact it will have a camera. All of its competitors now have cameras, front and rear facing cameras. So it's pretty good. If I was a betting man, there's a pretty good chance that it's going to have cameras integrated into this thing. Another feature, perhaps, multi-core processors, right?
Yes.
Apple now owns its own microprocessor manufacturing fab. I think that you're going to see multi-core processors, and these guys, that would be the logical next step anyway.
Yeah. The rumor is that the next gen will contain the A5 processor, which will be dual core and a lot peppier, of course.
Right. Many of the competitors are running multiple cores as well already, so again, it would be silly for us not to see that. Any sense on the form factor at all?
From a form factor perspective, I think it's going to maintain roughly the same shape, from this side of the equation anyways. The prototypes that people claim to have seen are a bit thinner, a little bit flatter on the back. This one right here, if you take it out, it sort of wobbles a little bit on a desk because it's got a rounded back. Sure, looking at like a much flatter backing on the...
Yeah, you can kind of see this curve, right? So they're going to say it's going to round this out a little bit more.
Right. So a bit thinner, of course, while not skimping on the battery life. That would be suicide in this space.
Right.
And I think the other thing, the screen, hard to say at this point whether it's going to maintain the same aspect ratio that it has here, 4:3, probably because it's institutionalized here. And the look that we saw at it seemed to indicate the same rough dimensions. But the thing that people are talking about is potentially it'll have a Retina display, so a much higher resolution image like you would see on the iPhone 4, for example.
Right. And that's important, right? Because the iBooks feature where you can buy and read books on this device really does need a very comfortable screen to read those things on, so you don't suffer from eye strain and that sort of thing. I think that it obviously became a priority with the iPhone 4. Inevitably, they're either going to improve the screen technology or maybe move to a Retina display to make it a lot easier on the eyes for that experience. Yeah,
and with upgrading the processor and upgrading the graphics inside the machine as well, it'll become a much more capable gaming machine as well. Right. And the iPhone is like the most popular portable gaming platform. I mean, forget Nintendo, forget Sony, all these other ones that actually have dedicated gaming platforms. It's just people buying casual games on the iPhone. Well, why not on the iPad too? Take that away from the desktop. Why would you want to do your gaming on a desktop or a console when you can go anywhere with the same game?
That's right.
I mean, some people still want a console, but you get the point.
And finally, really quickly before we move on, SD card slot.
That is one of the rumors. I'd be really surprised about that myself, but you never know. I mean, they put them on the side of the MacBooks. And I guess a lot of people have been buying the little add-on for the iPad that allows you to put SD cards in this. So yeah, maybe.
Right.
Maybe.
So all those things add up to the ones you're going to want to beat this year. So let's move on, because I think the next contender, this might surprise some people. I think the contender in terms of volume is going to be the BlackBerry Playbook.
Really?
Yeah, I really do. In the sense that companies and enterprise-level organizations are buying iPads, but they're not ideally suited for the enterprise space. They're not secure. They put corporate data at risk. And I think that the enterprise is ready for the tablet experience for salespeople and that sort of thing. So I think that given that the RIM, which makes the BlackBerry, has that background, is the ability to give you a corporate server with all of those kinds of secure features, that to introduce a tablet, which is going to be the Playbook, is going to give them a real edge in that marketplace. And while the consumer may not jump onto the Playbook, I believe that companies will, and in volume, that's going to make them a real contender for, if not the second spot, perhaps the third spot.
Well, it does make a kind of sense in a way when you think about it, because the initial tablets that came in before the iPad, the first generation slates and convertible ones, were pretty much all aimed at enterprise users. They weren't a lot of consumers using those things. But of course, having to use a stylus was not ideal for a lot of people. But I guess the Playbook uses the same finger touch interface that we have with the iPad that we're used to on other tablets. So bringing that into the corporate environment will make it a lot easier to use.
Absolutely.
But there are a couple things going against the Playbook, though.
What's that?
As well. it's a smaller interface.
Yep.
Smaller
screen.
Smaller screen, so it doesn't have the same real estate as the iPad. That said, it is widescreen, so it will be better for watching movies, which sort of goes against the corporate thing a little bit.
Well, businessmen and businesswomen travel. You know, you always have to add that piece, that functional piece.
Yeah, true enough.
Right.
But the other thing that's really going against it, I think, is unlike every other BlackBerry in the universe, it does not have cellular on board.
No, you have to link it with your BlackBerry to use 3G. It does have Wi-Fi though, and also most notably, it does play Flash, which these guys don't. It does play Flash interfaces, which helps you have the better web experience and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We need to move on. Let's talk about Android right now. Android being the operating system that came out from Google, and it was introduced into phones, now being adapted for the tablet. So Samsung, with a Galaxy Tab, introduced it as probably the most largest contending tablet in the marketplace last year. A moderate success, I think.
It was a moderate success. People were actually talking about Android as a really potential competitor to the iPad after seeing it out there, and people got really, really excited about this, even though there probably weren't as many of them out there in the wild as they would have liked. But it definitely got people going, yeah, this is a real possibility. Right,
exactly. As we see Gingerbread, the new operating system 2.3, roll up this year, I think it's going to be slightly more tablet compatible, maybe a generation away from actual tablet ready operating system from Android, perhaps.
Yeah, it is the first Android version that is done specifically for tablets, rather than being sort of adapted to the tablets.
Right, so we see that further refinement, maybe 2.4, whatever that's going to be next, right? At the show, at the Consumer Electronics Show, the Motorola Zoom had a lot of buzz. Now, this was probably the next one that the people are paying attention to, Zoom with an X, not with a Z, or with a Z for you Americans. Multi-core processor on that one. A very robust form factor. People were saying a lot of great things about it.
Yes, and the multi-core on that is really key. And I think while we're talking about on the iPad 2, being on the Zoom as well, I think this is the key. These are becoming real serious computing devices rather than just curiosities that you can play Angry Birds on or watch a movie on.
Yeah, no, they're actual computing platforms. Running Honeycomb, right? Honeycomb is a version of a mobile processor, multi-core processor that Intel built.
Yes.
Is that correct? Yeah, okay, good. All right, and then it's worth mentioning, so if I can buy all these different models, how come I can't customize my tablet experience? If this is really a computer, why can't I customize it? Well, Lenovo answered that question this year at the Consumer Electronics Show by announcing that they're going to be shipping various models of tablets, different sizes, different cores inside, different memory and that sort of capabilities that you'll be able to customize. You'll be able to say, like when you buy a computer, I'm going to customize my tablet.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how that's dealt with in the marketplace. I mean, do you think people are going to want to customize their tablet?
I think so. Whether it's whether they customize it at the point of purchase, say I want this spec, or this spec, or whether they actually go for something that's sort of been pre-customized by the manufacturers. One of the things that I noticed while I was out there is there's a lot of manufacturers that are building Android, and because Android is more open, you're allowed to reskin it and reconfigure what it does and what it looks like to the end user. So we've got companies like Creative Labs, for example, a company that we know better as an audio manufacturer with the Sound Blaster, and they're doing something called the Zeo, which is very much multimedia-centric, more in the space that they play in typically, even though it does everything else a tablet will do. Again, same with Arcos, a company that does multimedia in the past, like little jukeboxes. Again, they're doing a multimedia version of this. So anyone that is currently operating in a different space and wants to get into the tablet space can reconfigure it to look more like that vertical, whether it's for a specific industry or whether it's just for a specific interest.
Right, very good. Now, one thing about Lenovo is I think you'll be able to choose whether you want to run Windows 7 on the tablet, which is fully capable of doing.
Windows 7?
Yeah, or Android. They were talking about both options and that sort of thing. We'll see what the market decides. But speaking of Microsoft and Windows 7, yes, we've seen some prototypes of Windows Phone 7 tablet versions. We've seen a couple of companies come out with prototypes and sort of demonstration models. Nothing shipping on the horizon yet.
And this is really, really interesting to me because Microsoft has been all over multi-touch and touch sensitivity for a long time. It was built into the previous version of the operating system. It was being played up in this one. They've got the tablet or the Surface device. It's just they've been all over this, but really absent from the space where touch is really, really important.
Well, no. To be fair, I mean, Motion Computing and a bunch of their different partners were showing Windows 7 home-based tablets. Windows 7 premium-based tablets, things like that. And, you know, stylus as well as touch.
Yeah, but this is really like the old school ones that didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense why they're doing that. I can understand in the enterprise space, you know, for certain applications, for certain compatibilities, but really, you know, it's a whole new ball game. Why are they doing that? Why are they haven't come up with a strategy, and I think that's a real shortfall on Microsoft's part.
Yeah, the Windows 7 phones that we've seen have actually been quite nice looking. Yeah. It'd be interesting to see what they could do on a full-size tablet.
That's right, absolutely. Good. All right, so big question mark there about Microsoft this year. We'll see. I'm sure they'll have a strategy. It may be too late to the game. We don't know if they're going to capture any of the market share in the tablet space, but certainly going to give it the old college try, I would imagine, at some point.
Yes. Let's talk in a year and see where everyone is stacked up here.
There you go. All right. Well, let's take a break, and when we come back, we've got Clip of the Week, final thoughts on tablets, and your pictures. That's after this. Welcome back to Lab Rats. So during the break, we did a little head scratching because got some terminology wrong there. I was thinking about Sandy Bridge processor for the Intel in the Motorola Zoom.
Yes.
Right. And Honeycomb is the next generation operating system of Android. It's like the first tablet-ready operating system.
Yeah, that's the problem with all these code words is you start getting code words mixed up.
That's right. So there you go. So Honeycomb is Android 3.0, and they think Motorola showed an early version of that on their demonstration product, the Zoom, at CES, the Consumer Electronics Show.
Yeah. And the one thing I learned while looking all of this up on this iPad was that apparently Intel's Atom will actually be compatible with Honeycomb as well. So there you go.
There you go. You heard it from the source. Okay, good. All right, so we have pictures coming up. Before we get, and we also have a clip of the week, but before we get to that, what's your take then on 2011? Where do you think we're going to be sitting in a year's time?
I think it's really up in the air at this point because I think the money is kind of on Android with all of the buzz that we saw at the Consumer Electronics Show, but the thing is until Steve Jobs or a suitable alternative to Steve Jobs at Apple stands up on a stage and holds up the next generation of their tablet, all bets are off, I think.
I mean, honestly, I believe that the iPad 2 is going to do extremely well. I mean, it cannot not do well unless there is some fundamental issue with it. I think Android's going to come on very strong this year, and I think the price points are going to come drastically down. You know, while we're sitting here with an iPad 2 sitting at $500 to $1,000 in that range for various versions, I think we're going to start to see tablets come out, you know, below the $500 mark. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the year we saw a $200 tablet from somebody, you know, maybe based on the Atom processor or something.
Yeah,
like
the ones that I saw from Creative, I think were around $300 at the start. So, and you know, they'll just go down from there.
$99 tablet by the end of the year, or maybe they're going to give them away in Kellogg's cornflake boxes.
Yeah, but what'll the OS be on those?
Oh, good question.
Kellogg OS.
Tiger OS.
Or something.
Tony the Tiger. All right, it's just it was a cornflakes joke. All right, so let's see the clip of the week. We have a great series put together by Andrew Moore Crispin, one of our, in fact, our senior editorial guy here at butterscotch.com. He does Gadget TV, and he does a lot of our How Do I series, right?
Yeah.
So Andrew did a series on the Samsung Galaxy Tab, 10-part series, and we're going to show you a little piece of it here in case you want to go and check that out and see what's going on with the #1 Android selling tablet of 2010.
Welcome on deck. I'm Matt Harris.
Hi, I'm Jay Goldman.
Welcome to the A-List.
Hi, welcome to Miss Download.
So if we take a quick look at the device here, we can see the star of the show is a 7-inch touchscreen, capacitive touchscreen. There were rumors that it was going to be an AMOLED screen. It's actually not an AMOLED screen. It's an LCD screen. Across the bottom of the device, we have the pretty standard hardware but soft touch buttons. So we have a settings and menu button. We have a home button. We have a back button and a search button. Now these will perform different tasks depending which application you're in.
Of course, now it's time for picture time. Before we get there, though, I wanted to mention that if you do want to see the entire series of that Galaxy Tab series Andrew's done, zip on over to butterscotch.com. Check out the How Do I show, or just use the search there and you'll find it.
Yeah, you can even see some of Andrew's other tablet-related stuff on a couple episodes of Lab Rats back.
That's very true. Very good. So check that out too. All right, picture time. Times for pictures.
Yes.
So what do we have this week?
So we have a couple here for you. One, we always like to hear from people all around the world, and we got one this week from someone in Lebanon. And it is a graphic put together by Ala Eddin. El Chab. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. So if I'm not, apologies. But there you go. Definitely feel free to send us your artwork and your pictures of you and your cats and your rats and your systems and whatnot.
Very good.
From wherever you happen to be.
Nice.
And next up, we have a photograph sent by our viewer Todd. And it's his girls, Kenzie, who is the shepherd, and Abby, who is the golden retriever.
Isn't that great?
So there you go.
We love when you send pictures of your pets.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we don't need to see cats or rats. We can see dogs too. Dogs are just fine.
There we are. Good. Okay, good.
Thank you so much, Todd.
Thank you so much. So if you want to send your pictures in, or if you had a request for a show, or you just want to talk to us, or whatever you want to do, you can email us at
Don't put your honeycomb in the sandy bridge at labrats.tv.
It's very creative. And if you want to type that a little bit faster, get the email off faster, you could use a shortcut, which is
And if you want it to get to us,
yes,
feedback at labrats.tv.
Feedback at labrats.tv. There you go. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Carruthers. I wish you much luck with your your iPad was malfunctioning before.
Yeah, it was doing something a little bit wacky. I'm hoping that they'll stand up and announce iPad 2 soon.
The correct answer is yes, it's broken. I need a new one, Mr. General Manager Andy Walker.
That's an option?
No, I just thought I'd taunt you. Well, what can you do? All right, well, thank you for tuning in this week in Pushing Play. It'd be foolish for us to be here playing with our tablets when you're out there going, I don't want my netbook anymore. I want something that's flat and plays movies and runs the Android operating system.
It has fingerprints on it.
Apparently so. My name's Andy Walker.
I'm Sean Carruthers.
And we'll see you next time.
Are you ready?